You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. It's the tail end of 2021, so today, John, Jason, and I are going to be talking about the shows we produced over the past year and talk about a few of our personal favorites that stand out to us from all the shows that we've produced. Afterwards, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to play an encore presentation of a show we recorded a couple of years back at the home of Mick, the legendary photographer of rock and roll performers who unfortunately passed away last month. But first, let's take a review of all of the shows we did this year, who was on and what we spoke about, and then we'll talk about some of our favorites. John, you want to start this off?
I will do. Yeah. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. And thanks for a great year, guys. Let's start in. January of 2021, we featured Matt Price, a skate photographer, and we talked about his work and skating and skate photography. It was a great way to start the year. After that, we had Malik Sidibé in the show, who's a young photographer in New York. Actually, he's from NYC SALT, the program that we discussed on last week's episode.
Right.
And we talked about protest photography. Afterwards, we had Barbara Mensch, and we talked about her wonderful Brooklyn Bridge photo book. And then we had our first episode in collaboration with Leica, and it was with Ralph Gibson.
Powerful show. Great show.
Really, really interesting to talk with him. Great spirit, great outlook on photography. We followed that up with David Burnett, the legendary photojournalist, and we talked about him working the inauguration in Washington and also about using old glass on his Sony mirrorless cameras.
It's kind of fun that he does all that stuff. I mean, everyone goes out to the latest and greatest, 80 zillion, frames per second cameras. He's going out with these old beasts that you really have to work, and the pictures are different. It shows. It's a great outlook he has.
Absolutely, and the work is great. And his body of work since the 70s is incredible.
Oh yeah,
needless to say. The following week, we featured photographers David Spicer and Grace Scalzo, and we talked about bird photography and the advantages of the new mirrorless systems. After that, Christy Goodwin and concert photography. She's the house photographer for the Royal Albert Hall in London. So we talked about rock and roll, and
she had a great run there. That's a terrific gig, and she had some great stories to tell.
Sure. Followed that with Kesha Lambert and wedding photography.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Stella Johnson on, and we talked about her documentary photography, primarily the work she does in Mexico. The next episode was a good one with Emma Russell, and it was about her still life work and food photography.
Yeah.
That's an episode that stuck with me.
Yes.
After that, we had Gulnara Samoilova on the show, and we talked about women's street photography and talked about the book that she put out, which had street photographers from around the world. Really interesting. And after that, Misan Harriman. Again, that was a Leica-sponsored episode, and it was a great chat with him. He's obviously doing great work right now and getting a lot of attention. We after the episode, we did a Clubhouse chat with him, which turned out to be pretty successful. Followed that up with Todd Webb in Africa. That was the name of the show, but we talked about Todd's work throughout his career in the 40s, 50s, 60s.
That was a total discovery for me. I was totally unfamiliar with him, and it blew me away, his work. And I mentioned last week, there's another book of his work in New York City before he went off to Africa. That is, again, photographs of New York City back in the 40s that are just mind-boggling. The man's an amazing photographer. Great eye.
Right. The following week was Macro Week at B&H Explora, and we did an episode with Nathan Renfro on photomicrography of gems, and his work is incredible. He uses these microscopes to dig deep inside gems and create these abstract, colorful, beautiful images.
I never thought about it, but it's interesting that a lot of these photomicrography photographs of things of gems specifically, it's not unlike astrophotography, except it's a lot closer to home. But a lot of it is the same because you're interpreting colors and you're playing with things and stuff, and we're looking at stuff that we normally can't see.
Very true. Yeah. No, we talked about that on the episode too. I remember kind of digging into these unknown universes. The following week was with Kim Beal, professor at Stanford, and we talked about how-to photo books and the history of popular photography. The next week was a pretty fun episode. It was we had a hands-on with the Leica Q2 and the Q2 monochrome, the three of us, and then we came back to talk about how we like those cameras and what we photographed.
I think we have to do another show because they just released the reporter version with Kevlar and scratch-proof green paint. We have to talk about this.
Oh, cool. The following week was Photography at the Border with Greg Constantine and Monica Lozano. Then we did an episode with three representatives of camera companies, Sigma, Panasonic, and Leica, and it was on the L-Mount Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
The next week was with Mona Kuhn, well-known art photographer and nude photographer. It was great. She had a new book. The following week was on NFTs and photography. The next week after that was an episode with Clarissa Bonet and Nina Kling, and it was about ostensibly it was about street photography, but Clarissa's work is really special and unique, so it had to do with just photography on the streets. And the next week was with Cherise May, who's a Washington, D.C. based photojournalist. And that was a real nice, that was also a Leica sponsored episode. And she shoots Leica and other cameras. But it was interesting to get an insight of her work as a journalist in the D.C. area. The next week, we did our photo walk where the three of us got together in a garden and kind of simulated a photo walk where we took pictures and gave advice. And that was this summer. It was a lot of fun. Follow that with My Client Was Democracy, City Halls of the United States by Arthur Drucker.
Great book on architecture and city halls and histories and some wonderful stories. Real good stories.
Mm-hmm, yeah. The next episode was about a group called Black Women Photographers, and we had the founder, Polly Arungu. That was a really interesting show. The next one was on summer food photography. So it was a food photography show, very practical, very insightful, I thought. Cherry Lee was one of the guests. She was great. Sally Davies was next, and her portraits of New Yorkers in their apartments.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And that was a good one. And then we had David Rothenberg on his series of photos that are taken in Queens. One of his series anyways was about planes as they kind of take off and land right above the houses in Queens, in New York.
It's like then we had Mark. It's great abstract imagery. It's really great stuff. It's chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he also did a really wonderful series of portraits in a train station in Queens also.
Yeah.
And the next episode, we welcomed Mark Mann back to the show, and we talked about his project that he did during quarantine, which is on dance photography. And then we followed that up with surf photography with Zach Noyle, who's pretty well-known surf photographer who's born and raised in Hawaii. And then
Beautiful
back to
work he does.
Yeah, gorgeous stuff. And then back to Brooklyn with Meryl Meisler and her work in Bushwick in the 1970s. Followed that with Barry Wetcher about film stills and on-set photography for movies. And then we had the Social Documentary Network, and we had the founder, Glenn Ruga, and one of the photographers who's been profiled, Sophia Aldinio. And that was about their magazine and their program to support, documentary work. Followed that with Fly Fishing and Outdoor Photography with Jess McLaughlin and Toby Nolan. Thought that was a really good episode.
Yeah, blew a lot of my preconceptions, that's for sure. I kept saying, prove me wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. And he kept telling me how wrong I was. So I learned. It was a good show.
It was a good show, yeah. The following episode was with Todd Bigelow, and that was about the business of freelance photography. Very important, very insightful show. Then we did a podcast, which we called The Podsticle. It was just a list of the new cameras and gear that came out at that point in the year. I'm not listing all the gear episodes that we did this year. We did 3 or 4 where we update the new gear, but that was one of them. Also, we had a collective portrait of trailblazing women artists, which was an episode based on the book called Portrait of an Artist, and it profiled some great female photographers and artists. Yoko Ono was one of them, Carrie Mae Weems. And
we talked a lot about that. It was a very interesting book. The book itself was interesting to talk about physically, the way it was put together.
True.
So it wasn't just the art that was in it and the text. It was actually the book itself, which I think was kind of fun also.
Yeah, Prestel Press made it. Very, very good book. Very interesting. And yeah, the design was wonderful. Yep. Riff on the Caption was the next episode, and that was our conversation with photographer Lester Sloan and his daughter Isha Sabatini Sloan. And then followed that with Vernacular Photography with Peter Cohn and Bill Shapiro.
Those two shows are kind of similar in a way. There was a certain kind of a similarity between them. The way they, I don't know, maybe it was the subject matter and the conversations were going on. But I'm looking at these two shows, and they kind of remind me of each other. They had the same feel, and both great shows.
Both very good shows, I agree. Yeah, and the Vernacular Photography was a deep dive into the history of popular photography to some degree, and old snapshots and collecting. Next was Craig Strong, who was the co-founder of Lens Baby. I really enjoyed that show. We talked about how he came to create the first Lens Baby lenses and how the company developed. Then astrophotography with Dr. Robert Gendler, and again, very interesting about his work of deep sky images. And we're getting close to very recent episodes. We had Building Community Through Photography with Tonika Johnson, John Noltner, and Michael Scholar. And we looked at a couple of the projects that these folks work on, including the Folded Map project out of Chicago, which was really interesting. Shipping and Maritime Photography with Nick Souza and our colleague Todd Vorenkamp. And then we did our Cameras of the Year episode, which is only a couple of weeks ago. And we discussed all the new cameras from this year with Lenelva De Castro from The Store. And last week, Among Peers, the United States of Young Photographers, where we welcome back Michelle from Minor Matters Books and Lauren Wendell to talk about the book they did, which profiled student photo programs around the country and the work that these students produced. And we're caught up to date. So that was a quick run through the new episodes that we did in 2021. In a minute, we'll talk about which episodes performed the best and some of our favorites. But a quick little overview, and my thoughts anyway, from 2021, we talked about a lot of photo books this past year, which I thought was a great way to get at some of the photographers we wanted to speak to. And
also on that same thing, because of the pandemic, books made a bounce back. It used to be that, who looks at people getting rid of books? Everything's online. But all of a sudden, books have become important again. I think a lot of it has to do with the tactile aspect of it, that a book can be picked up. It doesn't have to be plugged in. You don't need electricity. The batteries don't die in a book. And just something a little bit different about it. It's kind of a swing back to it. And I think because of the pandemic, we have more time to sit and relax and really just absorb things at a better pace, a more reasonable pace than just looking at a picture on Instagram.
And also, a lot of people had time to make these books to kind of look back at their work and put together a book project.
Sure.
One thing that I kind of noticed from looking at the episodes we did this year, there was I felt a nice split between young photographers and some older photographers who kind of brought a lot of the same ideas, even though they were generations apart. And a couple I want to speak about were Malik Sidibe on the young side, who is just a kid, in his early 20s, doing some powerful work on the streets and portrait work. On the older side, we had Ralph Gibson, who and Stella Johnson, folks who've been working for many years, but their spirit is still strong. I also was impressed with Polly Arungu, who started Black Women Photographers. Just an incredible growth of putting together a community. So that's my thoughts on this year. We also had women guests, a lot of women guests. We had 25 of our 46 new episodes featured women photographers or editors or authors, and no celebrities this year. This was one year that we didn't have a Jeff Bridges or a Jeff Garland or somebody along those lines to talk about their work. But I still think we did pretty well.
Yeah.
So, Alan, you want to let us know your favorite episodes from this year?
Yeah, sure. I went through it, and again, it's kind of hard to pull out your favorites, but the ones that spoke to me the most, that I kind of feel maybe most connected to, the Vernacular Photography with Peter Cohn and Bill Shapiro. I really enjoyed that because it's a kind of photography that is not pretentious in a certain way. I mean, we're all photographers and we all put our own stuff into it, but these were just snapshots. These are innocent photographs, and there's a lot of fun to it. And you could read into them, and you could project your own meanings onto them and stuff. But it makes you look at photography and how people react to it just casually. And I kind of like that. And there was some really wonderful, fun photographs on that. I also really enjoyed the riff on the caption with Lester Sloan and his daughter, Aisha Sabatini Sloan. The content was amazing. His photographs were wonderful. And I really, really, really got really sucked into the whole conversation between father and daughter working together and reflecting on things of the way they were, the way they are now. And it was just a really great vibe about that show. I also enjoyed the podcast Speaking in Dialect, how-to books in the history of popular photography with Kim Beal. That was a great show, very insightful. We mentioned earlier the Todd Webb in Africa. Again, blew me away. Never knew about this man. And it's always great to be able to learn about somebody who has an incredible body of work that we're totally unaware of. And it was just really powerful stuff. And I mentioned his New York City book is great too. And then lastly, the podcast Staying Power, History and Photography with Barbara Mensch. First of all, she's of my vintage and from the same neighborhood that I grew up in Brooklyn. So we kind of clicked right there. But her work down on the Brooklyn Bridge and a new book coming out about the fish market, the Fulton Fish Market, is extraordinary. She lives there and she got access to people and places that most of us would not dare venture to. And again, just from being persistent and living there and gaining trust of people who are not always easy to get the trust of. And that show is real, real good. So that's where I am.
All right. And Jason, haven't heard much from you this episode, but what do you got on your list? What were your favorites from 2021?
I had some overlap with Alan for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, riff on the caption, the conversation with Lester Sloan and Aisha Sabatini Sloan. I thought that was just a fantastic episode, and their chemistry as father and daughter. I'm a girl dad, myself, and it was just like I could see how proud he was of her, and I could see how much she had like a real respect and like a deep connection with her father that I thought was really great. And that episode also had what I considered, for me, the best answer that we've ever gotten on a show, which was his answer about the Berlin Wall. So if you haven't heard that episode, Lester Sloan and Aisha Sabatini Sloan, check it out. It's excellent. NFTs and photography was probably my favorite episode, just because it's, kind of, there's some overlap there with my personal work, and I'm really interested in that space. But I thought that came first. And then later in the year, we did vernacular photography with Peter Cohen and Bill Shapiro. So I thought that the reason that I like these two episodes is because these guys on that show, if you take a listen to it, vernacular photography, they're really into collecting physical pieces, these kind of artifacts from years ago, vernacular photography that's in the culture, and they kind of look for trends, and there's all kinds of cool little niches you can collect within vernacular photography. And I thought that was so interesting. Coming off earlier in the year, we talked about NFTs in photography, which is this whole new way of collecting that's breeding a whole new generation of collectors that collect in the digital space. So I thought it was really an interesting. They're not that different. If you really think about it, and the NFTs I think are here to stay. I mean, we saw Art Basel, which is takes place in my hometown in Miami. I had friends there this weekend. They said it was like NFT takeover. So I thought that was really interesting and kind of an ominous sign of more NFT episodes to come. So that's my those, and also a special mention, astrophotography with Robert Gendler. I thought was awesome. I thought the guy's just really impressive, and I just thought that it was such an interesting and kind of brainy undertaking that he goes through there for every image, kind of taking information from different telescopes, and it was just very, very interesting, and the interpolation that he has to make to to create the final image and the aggregate information that he just has to like all, it's just really crazy that how different it was from the way I take photos and the way that I think most people take photos.
And it's a hobby for him. He's a doctor. So yeah.
Which was so interesting because they're a different kind of imaging, right? So radiology is like, you're looking in, right? I mean, and then with his astrophotography, he's looking out. So it's just, it's really two sides of the same coin.
I thought your point about the NFTs and the vernacular photography, the snapshots, the collection is a really good one. And I hadn't thought about that before, but yeah, they do link in their way. So let me run through a couple of my favorites, and also you guys plucked a few of mine off of my list, which is fine.
That's what you get for going last, John.
That's what I get from going last, exactly. But I will mention a few episodes that I liked. I like Barry Wetcher specifically because I used to do a lot of film stills, and he also worked with Scorsese on Goodfellas and a few other of my favorite movies. So it was good to hear about that. I really enjoyed the fly fishing episode. I thought that both Jess McLaughlin and Toby Nolan really brought a lot to the table. They were able to explain their work and make it fun and exciting. So I enjoyed that episode. Also, I enjoyed the photography at the border episode. I'm not sure it was our greatest episode, but that doesn't really matter. In this case, the point is we had two photographers who are really using their own time and resources to make an effort to document some of the most important issues that are going on at our day right now. And Greg Constantine, Monica Lozano, I can't give them enough respect for the work they're doing. But I'm going to throw out Mona Kuhn as my favorite episode of the year. I just thought her ability to talk about her work really made the show great. And the work is wonderful, needless to say. She's one of the most respected, fine art photographers out there today. And but just the conversation was easy and wonderful, and she just had a wonderful way to talk about her own work. So those are my favorites. There's obviously a lot.
You said no celebrities this year, and I was like, what about Mona Kuhn? Isn't she a celebrity?
Yeah.
But she doesn't do movies or TV shows, so that's the difference, okay?
Yeah, right, exactly. No, but
she's actually famous for taking photos.
Right, exactly. She's famous for being a photographer, and good for her.
Well, same thing with Ralph Gibson. It's the same thing.
Sure.
So they're celebrities, but as photographers, they're celebrities.
True. Yeah,
Exactly. But
nothing against the celebrities that are also photographers.
Oh, no. I mean, somebody has to be able to afford Leicas. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. But so those are my episodes. I didn't mention the hands-on episode and the photo walk episode, which were kind of where we were the celebrities. That was kind of fun. Okay, so before we wrap up this part of the show, let me just run down a couple of stats, facts, and figures here. The episodes that were the most commented upon from 2021 were the Misan Harriman episode and the Sally Davies episode. Both of those brought in a lot of comments on various platforms. And also, as I mentioned, we did the Clubhouse chat with Misan, and that was very popular. So we had a lot of people responding to that.
I think it was the most popular thing ever on Clubhouse before it. Now, I think it's all been down. It's been downhill from there on Clubhouse. Apparently,
I know. Does Clubhouse still exist? I don't even know.
I saw it on eBay the other day. Actually,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a guy in Kansas was selling it
as an NFT.
All right, it worked out well though. Yeah, he's making an NFT out of it. It's been a long year, let me tell you. But the episodes that performed the best, I'll see if you guys are surprised by this. And I'm going to go in reverse order. Number 6, What Life is Like, the documentary photography of Stella Johnson. Number 5, Sometimes It Takes Time, the photography of Merrill Meisler. And again, her work in Bushwick and Manhattan in the 70s. Number 4, NFTs and photography. Did very well. Number 3, this one kind of surprised me, but it was Light Hunters, Art About the Street with Nina Kling and Clarissa Bonet. Really? That episode did very well. And the number is 1.
That was about street photography.
Yeah, I think the street photography aspect caught people's attention.
That's always a winner.
And the last 2, I doubt that you guys will be surprised by these two, but I'll mention them anyway. Well, what is interesting is that our typical gear episodes didn't crack the top 6 this year, which was a bit surprising. But number 2 was what we called mirrorless system advantages for bird photography, which I mentioned earlier. We had David and Grace on the show, and they spoke about using their mirrorless cameras for bird and wildlife photography, and a lot of really good information about the cameras themselves too.
Yeah.
And the number 1 episode of the year, you guys want to guess?
Miss on Harriman. That's my guess.
Okay, Alan.
Oh man. Wow. I don't know.
All right. It was The Business of Freelance Photography with Todd Bigelow. Yep.
I'm glad to hear that.
Well, yeah. That's very telling, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't take the business side seriously, and the art is important. But if you don't understand the business end of it, it's rough. So that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and Todd broke that down in our conversation by saying 20% should be your creative side and 80% should be your business side.
Yeah.
So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
He really had some interesting tips. I thought, especially about the web, where he talked about building the back pages and all that stuff for better SEO. Yeah. I thought that was just invaluable stuff.
That's true. Yeah, and working his archive and keeping in contracts.
That's what
everything.
The archive.
Right.
Yeah. You can't see it, but you can search it. I thought that was brilliant.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a summarization of all the shows that we did this past year. I suggest you go back, flip through the list of shows you've had and listen to some of them again, because I personally find that the second time around, sometimes I get even more out of the shows. And again, there's a lot there. We have 40 plus shows in the past year. And I think close to 300 altogether in our library right now, our archive, which is pretty impressive.
Over 300.
And kind of mind-boggling. Is it over 300 now?
Yeah, we cracked 300 this year.
Oh, wow.
I should have mentioned. Yeah.
Wow, I'll have to go out and get a cake later. I'll send you each a slice. Anyway, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about our little visit to the late Mick Rock, and we're going to play that Encore presentation. Stay tuned.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. The best way to support the show is by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For links to gear and more information on today's guests, check out the show notes in your podcast app or visit our homepage on the B&H Explorer website and join the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. And now, back to the show.
Okay, we are back. As we mentioned, unfortunately, we lost Mick Rock back in November. Mick was a phenomenal photographer. He was fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time. When he was still in his late teens, he was in London and he started hanging out with people like David Bowie and all of the other people that made music what it is today. And he was them. He was part of them. He hung out with them. He lived with them, and he photographed them. And because of his efforts, there's an amazing, amazing archive of photography of some of the musicians that really define the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s into the year 2000. And it was great talking with Mick. We drove out to his house in Staten Island. He expected, I think, one person with a tape recorder. Meantime, 4 of us come out. He was kind of taken back. It was kind of funny. But it was a wonderful afternoon. He's a terrific guy, very easy to talk to. We had to stop recording every once in a while because we were just laughing so hard. John, any thoughts that you have on this?
Nothing more than what you added. I'll never forget that day, loading up my car and driving out to Staten Island and pulling up in front of his house, which was, an archive and a studio. And we set up literally on his kitchen counter and had the conversation there. And as you mentioned, a lot of laughs. He was poking fun at us the whole time. And, and then just, being in the presence of somebody who photographed Lou Reed, David Bowie, Queen.
All of the pictures that we think about when we mention these names, he took most of them.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And a couple of my all-time favorite albums, he has the album art on that. So And he was patient with us and welcoming, and it was just a really great episode. So when the news came in November that we'd lost him, it was you know.
You know, there was a little bit of a blow. When I read that, I was like, wow, that's sad. Because I remember he was just a joy to be with. He was a lot of fun.
And the tributes poured out. I mean,
yeah.
you know, my Instagram was filled with people who knew him or worked with him or just admired him and put out images and comments. So it was, yeah. And I'm happy that we have this episode on tape and we can play it for people now.
Yeah.
Good way to end the year.
Okay, so that's our year-end wrap-up, talking about all of the shows that we did and some of our favorites and some of the stats for some of them. We cannot thank you enough for tuning into us on a weekly basis. And remember, you could always find us on the B&H Explorer website and on the B&H Podcast Facebook group page. On behalf of John Harris and Jason Tables, I really want to wish all of our listeners happy holidays, only the best to each of you and your respective families for the coming new year, only good things. And we're going to sign off with, again, our encore presentation of our interview with Mick Rock. Be well. Happy New Year to all of you. Take care. Privileged to have an opportunity to chat with Mick Rock, the man who over the course of the past 4 decades has photographed more music legends than anybody I can think of, starting with a young David Bowie back in 1972.
No, starting with Syd Barrett.
Oh.
In the beginning was Sid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
there we are. In addition, other performers that our guest has photographed include Alicia Keys, Blondie, Brian Ferry, Daft Punk, Fat Joe, Iggy Pop.
Lana Del Rey.
And who else? Tell us.
Mark Ronson.
Joan Jett.
Pharrell.
Lady Gaga.
Karen O, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs.
Lou Reed. Motley Crue.
Motley Crue.
Queen.
Yes.
The Ramones.
Yes.
Rhymefest. Sex Pistols.
How do you
Snoop
know
Dogg.
about
Stooges.
Rhymefest? It's true, yeah.
Okay, see?
Everybody, I forgot.
We do our homework here. There's too many names to even list here. On a personal note, having come of age in the 60s, looking at Mick Rock's work is like viewing a visual soundtrack of my formative years. Mick Rock, thank you so much for inviting us to your home studio today.
I think you kind of muscled your way in.
We just knocked on the door, so we're selling subscriptions, and you invited us in, and here we are.
Yeah, you're a dodgy-looking
careful.
bunch. I'm surprised I bought into it. Anyway, I'm happy to have you.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
Contrary to the notion of a high amperage craziness within the music business, before going into a shoot session, you take time to practice yoga. You empty yourself, is how I've seen it written, by doing at least 10 minutes of headstands as part of your pre-shoot routine. When did this start and who turned you on to this?
I think the Times did. I've been doing yoga for over 40 years.
Okay.
Headstands for over 40 years. To me, it's completely linked with photography. It was a way of, massaging the third eye so that I could see more clearly.
I like what you term it as emptying yourself, and I get that. It's like then you open your eyes, and there you are with your subject.
Yeah, you're in the present.
Yeah. Now, you started off way back when it was a totally different world. You were basically just hanging out with these people when they were starting out, and there were no rules, and you guys basically made it up as you went. Did you have any clue as to what all of this would be leading up to?
Not a fucking clue. I mean, anybody that says they did is a liar.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, even some of the more ambitious folks on the scene, some of the musicians, was anybody at this point saying, hey, you know what, Bowie, for example, talk to me in 10 years, and then this is going to be the shit.
David was a very intuitive gentleman, and he was very in the present. Of course, I did a bunch of videos with him, including Life on Mars.
Yeah, yeah.
And David gave me, at the time, we made them, there was very little usage of them, but in the late 90s, he gave me the copyright to the visuals.
And the John
But
I'm
not
Only
that I
Dancing
made
video.
any John I'm Only Dancing. Gene Genie, Space Oddity.
Well, let me ask, we had Mick Rock, you had Mick Ronson at the same time. What's your memories of Mick Ronson, just out of
He
curiosity?
was a lovely guy.
Yeah.
No, he was a sweetie. I know, there was the double Mick R's.
Yeah.
He was, They made a documentary about him recently too.
You too, yeah.
Yes. Oh, have you seen it?
The shot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did your homework, but he didn't.
Oh, he did his homework.
I did.
He lived
I
his
did.
homework.
Something I'm curious about. Most everybody you dealt with is extremely creative in their own right. How much of your photographs were you with them, or was it always a collaborative between the two of you? Or is that hard to answer?
It was all, yeah, it's very hard to gauge that. I think it obviously helped to have, you start out with Sid Barrett. Rory Gallagher, I did 3 album covers for in the early days. Bowie, Iggy, Lou Reed, Queen.
And were there any of the record companies involved in your shoots at all?
No.
That you just did what you did and you turned it over to them? So
Yeah,
again,
I mean, obviously the bands were the acts.
yeah.
And I showed them, when I could, I showed them what I was doing, but they all seemed to like what I was doing.
Can you talk a little bit about that transition from the UK to America? I mean,
That was a gradual thing in the late 70s, early 80s. I kept running to and fro, but it was more fun in New York.
Is that what it was, basically?
Yeah.
What introduced you to New York in the first place? Who'd you come over with? Was it for a job?
Lou, I would come over to do some work with Lou. There's no doubt, and I saw some interesting stuff.
I bet.
We're hanging out with Lou. He knew politicians. He knew priests. He had the most amazing mixture of pals.
I'm just curious, did the priest confess to him? I'm just curious.
Probably.
And he wrote that song about it, I'm sure. And were there times in those years, let's say when you're hanging out, where you put the camera down, where someone said, hey, you know what, not now, or you said, not now, and...
Nobody normally said not now, but sometimes I did put the camera down.
Yeah. And what brought you to put it down? I mean, other than being exhausted?
Tired.
Tired, yeah. Okay. Yeah, but there wasn't a moment that you can think of where you're like, you know what, I'm off the clock now, or this is not my work time, or this is not what I'm doing, and just, you know.
No, I never thought of it like work.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
What was your background in photography? Did you
None.
None. And your training as a photographer is? So what got you started? What made you pick up the
LSD.
camera? Oh, okay.
Entirely true.
All right. Sounds like a good
I
story.
was studying modern languages and literature at Cambridge University
Yeah.
in the late 60s. And I picked up a friend's camera on acid trip. And it wasn't that I suddenly wanted to be a photographer. It was I got very excited about what was going on. And then some local band gave me £5. And I thought, wow.
You said, weren't you that guy with the camera on acid the other day? Come on over and shoot us.
I think it was through a friend and they knew this band. I can still see the band, although I can't remember their name. And they just needed cheap pictures. And there I was.
Do you remember the camera? Or the kind of camera?
That was probably that Pentax.
35
35 million Pentax.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was always, in the earliest days, it was always 35. And then I graduated to my then wife's, what do you call it? What were they called? Not Nikon, but Nickelmats.
Oh, the Nicomats, the poor man's Nikon. Yes,
Yeah.
I've owned 3 of them. Great cameras. And synced at
I
125th.
never saw what the issue was. They were fine with me.
They were very good.
So
Most of my early 35mm pictures are taken on.
Now, you also shot Hasselblad also, if I'm not
Once
mistaken. Right?
I think shooting Bowie in the late summer of 73 for the back of the Pin-Ups album, the saxophone shots.
Okay. Because I've seen stills of you with the Hasselblad in your hand. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. No, I did. I liked the Hasselblad. 1, because of the control it gave. 2, because you could, get Polaroids.
Yes. Yeah.
You didn't, in those early days, there was no 35mm Polaroid, and I never in fact used one.
So you were able to figure out all the techniques of everything in photography just by trial and error and getting your film back
It
and seeing
wasn't
what was
complicated.
What even
still,
when
you need a starting
you're going to
point.
the lighting, when you're lighting studio sessions and you're shooting with a medium
Well,
format?
mostly it's pretty, a couple of lights and bing, bang, move them around till you get what you want. It's not complicated. People who try to pretend it's complicated are just selling photo equipment.
Yeah, but if you tell everybody that it's really simple, you can't sell weekend seminars.
No, I understand. I understand.
Have you found that out?
But it isn't. But the reality is, it is not complicated.
So you say you try to, you connect. I mean, the connection with your subject is what it's all about for you. Is that fair to say? Right.
Yeah.
And
having a pair of eyeballs.
Yeah. And can you speak to when maybe that didn't work, when you were with somebody and there was no connection?
Works.
Always
works.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why.
Is it fair to say that the best photos are when the connection's the best and you work your way down from there? Or?
No, I mean, always varied, You couldn't really say that. I remember.
Any photos?
I mean, mostly I could sense something as I went along.
Yeah.
But then I always sensed something. That was me.
Do you find working digital, because you're digital now, do you find it a little bit easier to work this way? Is your camera less of an object between you and your subject now?
Because especially, mostly I do setup stuff. So nowadays, and obviously I have a computer on the session, so I can see what I'm up to.
So you do a lot of what they call chimping on the way. You're watching what's going on as the picture's being built rather than just going out there and just grabbing stuff as...
No, I do some grabbing stuff, but I'll do that on my telephone.
Gotcha. Okay.
We were talking with Albert Watson the other day on the same subject and having to do with people looking over the shoulder at the screen and that he preferred the idea of the privacy of the image between him and the subject.
Yeah, but I don't care.
Back to look at it. Don't bother you?
No.
If you have 10 people looking at the monitor and...
That's their privilege.
Yeah.
I'm only interested in my opinion and the opinion of the subject. Mostly people don't interfere. I mean, if you want what Albert does, you go to Albert. You want what I do, you come to me. It's not complicated.
And have you had to learn over the years how to kind of keep people away, or it's never really been an issue?
I never thought about it.
Yeah? No. It's kind of
really. No, not that defensive-minded about this thing.
Yeah.
No, I understand why you asked the question.
Yeah.
But,
well, maybe get back to that quick question I had before about that feeling you get when you're on a shoot and with somebody. I mean, has there any shots that have become iconic that surprised you?
I don't know. There are pictures, because there were so many in the old days, they didn't surface till recently, and I'm happy to see them out there.
Yeah. Which of your photographs was the first one to get out there publicly, either on a poster or an album cover or something
Probably
where you looked
Sid
at?
Barrett.
Okay. And that was a record cover, or was it a magazine? Or
the Madcap Laughs, yeah.
Okay.
Album cover.
Album cover, okay.
Yeah, I did it very briefly under the aegis of hypnosis.
You were hypnotized.
You want to tell?
What?
I was just going to say.
You were hypnotized, or he was?
That's the name of a company, you silly bugger.
Under the aegis of hypnosis.
On the ages of...
Okay.
They did a lot of Pink Floyd album covers, for one thing.
Well, some of your more famous album covers are for example, Transformer here in front of us, are concert shots.
They happen to be, although people it takes a while to realize it.
Yeah, that's
it's true of the Raw Power album
and the
cover.
Iggy Pop. But
they were shot back to back, same location.
No,
they were. I never believed it. I knew it was the same location. I always thought they were shot a week apart.
Back to back in what sense? Same night, same show,
same location.
Same location.
Successive nights.
Yeah. Do you remember the location?
Yeah, it was a cinema that was converted to a rock venue on Friday and Saturday night.
By the name of?
It was the King's Cross Cinema.
Ah.
It later got renamed La Scala, but it became more of a music venue.
Okay.
In King's Cross in London.
Cool. All right. And had you known Lou prior to that? You must have, because this is a couple albums. No?
No, not really. I knew him a little bit because I met him through David Bowie, because he was in England, so they could produce the album.
And what about, like, say, if you're doing you're getting hired for an album cover, and it's a setup, it's a studio setup. Do you approach that any different than you would a magazine shoot or any other kind of promotional work? Like, do you put more thought into it, more back-end thought possibly, or no?
I don't know that I do change my approach to it very much. I did for Gucci because they showed me drawings and they showed me basics.
This is an advertising campaign that you're referring to, correct? Or?
I did it last year, a huge campaign.
Okay. All right, so you have to follow direction when you're getting into those kind of situations.
You do really, because you have the head designer there.
How did you feel about working under the? Because I get everything I'm getting from you right now is that you just work on your own, and whatever. If you like my stuff, fine. If you don't like it, that's fine too. But now you're into a much bigger game when you're dealing with advertising.
Not that I do it every day of my life.
No, but you did.
Albert probably does it more often.
However, when working in that situation where you really do have eyes on you, and people have very specific ideas about what they want, even though they hired you for what you do, did you find it hard to work under those kind of circumstances? And were they easy to deal with?
They're very nice people, and they paid me well.
That's okay. That was my next question. They paid you well and the check cleared. That's all okay, and it's all good.
Gucci is a serious organization.
What other commercial work have you done aside from Gucci?
I've done stuff with Nikon, Ray-Bans, a couple of other things. Not such a lot.
Now, did you like seek this work, or they sought you out?
They always sought me out.
Okay, and I get the impression that's pretty much the way your whole career has been, that you've just been doing your thing and shooting the right stuff and being able to sell what you're doing, which is a very unique situation to be in, I think, especially these days.
Probably, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how other photographers work.
What about back in the day? Would you bump into another photographer at a concert or on location? Did you have a group of buddies, or were your buddies all musicians?
Not really. I mean, my only real buddy, if you like, I knew a couple in London, is here in New York, Bob Gruen. Mm-hmm. He's a good mate of mine.
Yeah.
But then he, like me, waded through the trenches in the bad old days.
I heard you say once you're not an aggressive photographer, and is that something that it plays to your benefit? I mean, when you get around musicians and other people, artists who are they don't want that aggressiveness in their life. They're more like, just hang.
I don't think so. Yeah, it's not my nature. I mean, when I'm on points, I can move quite quickly and, zip, 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 but it's not really aggressive.
Yeah.
And I prefer to, let the situation organize itself. But
sometimes as a photographer, that's good. I mean, you let the scene form in front of you, and then you're there at the right moment. No.
Yeah, although of course, if you're going to shoot in a studio, you got to have all the elements. You got to plonk them in certain places so you can take the pictures.
And you have to make sure before everybody leaves that you actually got the picture you intended to get.
I always get it.
Okay.
Did you ever lose a roll of film after you shot it?
No, I tell you what, many years ago, he was a new friend of mine at the time. There was a guy called Phil Linnett.
Yeah,
He had a band called Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, a band called
I
Thin
did a lot
Lizzy.
of pictures of him back in the 70s, in fact. I like Phil. I remember going on a shoot with him. It was one of my very first shoots with the Hasselblad. When I took him to a lab to process, they said, you know what? You loaded the film the wrong way around. So, that was a lesson. And
the first few times at a Hasselblad, it's easy to do that, yes.
Not the first session I did, because that was the Bowie one with the saxophone, but it must have been, second or third. Don't ask me how it happened. Perhaps I was just nervous. I don't know why.
Yeah. And what about your archive? I mean, have you made a point of, do you store it in one place? Are you kind of on top of things? Or do you have someone handle it for
I'm
you?
on top of the heavy collections, like Bowie, like Sid, like Lou, like Debbie, like Iggy.
I imagine you have a lot of scanning you have to do because everything you do back then was
I've been
film.
lucky that I've done a lot of books.
Okay.
So the book companies have paid for a lot. Yeah, I've done a decent amount of scanning too.
Now, are you doing any of this yourself? I know some photographers, like Albert Watson, only does his own printing. No one else prints his stuff. I know most photographers send it out. You send your stuff out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not that bothered with the technical stuff. It doesn't really excite me.
So it's just that click. That's what I'm getting.
It's a zen moment.
That's it. Yeah.
Can I ask you about Lindsay Kemp?
And
And
I knew there was a kind of gay element about this guy.
About me?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, it's out.
Yes, Lindsay Kemp is a very good friend of mine.
I mean, he's a mentor to a lot of people from different walks of life, and I know Bowie, of course. Famously, they work together. So
I got some of the only pictures of the two of them together. In fact,
And how was
Yes.
he an influence? How was he a mentor? What did he do to this group of folks, or what did he say, or how was he
Well,
around
the
the scene?
energy, the point of view. You got to remember, trotting around the way he did back in those days was pretty revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he would walk in the streets at times, dressed so outrageously. I think he gave David psychic and psychological permission to do what he did.
Interesting.
Because at the time, it looked pretty far out, I have to say. But that's what excited me about working with David, you know. David was also a very smart man, a very intuitive man.
When you say you work with him, what was the relationship like? Were you hanging out outside of it, or was it always a kind of a work-first relationship?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
You got to remember early on, I also often did interviews, another way of boosting the income. But Lindsay, he actually used to have classes in Covent Garden, I recall, that I would go to at times. He was just his presence. Somewhere I've got a tape of him and Jack on LSD talking about the most outrageous things.
Who was the other person?
Jack was the bald, blind guy that he worked with. You see in some of the pictures from back in the day.
We'll have to run those tapes.
Yeah, right. But he was
be
he
amazing.
was he also in the John Amoli dancing video, or
Yes, there are specks of him in there.
okay, all right,
Yeah, that's true.
all right, interesting. Well, yeah, and he just passed away last year, as far as I know. Is that
he
true?
did,
Yeah,
not
and-
long ago.
Okay, all right, and I'm sorry for not knowing, but
all right.
when he passed away, was it well recognized, or is he somebody who's kind of
Well, it was in England more than
Yeah.
anywhere else.
yeah?
I don't think people over here registered too much.
No, not too much. I mean, I just do the Bowie stuff. Yeah.
So I think one of the questions I had was performers in general, especially the people that you were photographing, tend to be very amazingly creative. And I even asked you up front how many of these people just collaborate with, throw ideas at you. Anybody a disappointment that would be amazing on stage that you put them in front of the camera and they just turn into a bar of butter?
No, and I never approached it like that. I never was judgmental in any way. I just accepted. I mean, I was interested in their aura, but I wasn't there to judge whether they were going to be interesting or not. They were going to, if they're in front of my camera, they were going to be interesting,
Okay.
whether they wanted to be or not.
I like that.
And did you listen to everyone's music? The people you're photographing, were you into the music as well at the time? Anyway?
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, again, especially when I was younger, you got to remember we were all hanging out. We're all of the same age. Nowadays, well, I don't really hang out all night.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't really go on anymore.
Got to get back
The
on the ferry.
stimulants.
Got to get to the ferry on time, right? So
It's got nothing to do with the ferry. When I shoot, I always have a car.
Yeah, I'm sure. What are you listening to now? What's your? What
It
do you like?
varies. I mean, I still like reggae. I love reggae.
Yeah.
It got me deep in my soul. Whether it's Bob Marley or Toots and the Maytals or Black Uhuru, or even Sinead O'Connor made a great reggae album.
We were just talking about her the other day with.
No, she's a super serious talent.
Yeah.
Super. I mean, I remember when Nothing Compares to You showed up. Many years later, I met the director, and I said, I like that. I liked how simple it was.
It was just her head. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you didn't need any more than that. It was a great song. I think it was a Prince song.
Prince song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anybody like I in looking through your stuff? We were talking about this earlier. We didn't see Prince in there. Is there anybody?
No, it's a shame. I think I was still too fucked up in those days. There was talk of it. My only real connection with Prince was he bought through a friend a Freddie Mercury shot, what I call laying on his new bed sheets. I call the purple Freddie shot. Purple, you know.
And
Okay, here you
anybody else that would fall into that category of somebody? Wow, you really wanted to shoot them and never had the opportunity, or
Yeah, you can't shoot them all.
that's for sure.
It's like the girls. You couldn't love them all. Certainly not nowadays.
I'd also read somewhere that you wish you had photographed John Lennon.
Well,
Well, you met him, but you...
yeah, no, I didn't want to. Somehow, I didn't want to. Anyway, it turns out that was Bob's turf. You know, it's all right.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
All right, good. I like that. Well, do you have a preference for black and white or color? Because you've done both. Neither one of them feels more fluid to you?
It depends. Sometimes nowadays, take a digital shot in color, and then it's convert it to black and white, and I like it even better.
I do that also. Yes, I find that a lot of pictures, I'll just shoot color, and then every once in a while, look and go, I think so.
I like a lot of old black and white movies because they're somehow more atmospheric. They're more surreal in a way.
Yes.
In fact, I've got a load over there. I'm working on a package for Hedwig. He's a friend of mine, and I did that famous original poster, and I've done recent work with him. But anyway, they decided, a company called Criterion, they wanted to do this special new package. So I've been dealing with that lately. But one thing they did was they gave me access to this amazing catalog they have. And so a lot of like Bergman films or one of my favorite, Lift to the Scaffold, L'ascenseur pour l'échafaud, with Jean Moreau.
Miles Davis.
And
right?
a Miles Davis soundtrack, exactly. Great film.
Yeah, it's a good
I
one.
also got Sallow, but my wife won't watch it with me. So I'll have to...
Gotta get that acid back for that, right?
You'll have to get one of the cats.
What about working on the Rocky Horror Picture Show? Were you on set during the whole production? Or
No, I wasn't going to be there at fucking 8 in the morning.
Well, of course. So you showed up once a day and...
I showed up when I wanted to, but I got all the special setups. The other photographer, they didn't allow anyone, was the unit photographer, and all his pictures are actually owned by Fox. Mine,
Yours.
no one ever paid me a penny, and that was fine because I own them all.
Who invited you on the set? Who was the...
It was actually Jim Sharman, who was the director. He had directed... what was it called? Tooth of Crime, which is a play by Sam Shepard.
Okay.
I think it was originally put on in the East Village with Patti Smith in one of the two lead roles.
Oh.
But Richard O'Brien, who in fact wrote, well, he didn't, he did. He wrote the script for Rocky Horror and collaborated on the music. And they decided they wanted me, and I was like, the flavor of the moment, Mr. Glam Rock Photography.
Right.
The fact that I
Single
worked
set,
with David and Lou was enough.
Right.
So they invited me, but they never offered to pay me. But back in those days, I'd, shoot a squirrel.
Right.
I didn't really matter that.
This is getting a little off subject, but is Lou considered a glam rocker? I mean, would you guys say that?
He was like one of those
I wouldn't say that, but
forces. Well, he's part of it.
yeah, sure.
He's part of it.
I know I associate that term with him as well. I think he was one of the
punk
earliest.
and glam.
Yeah.
And even Iggy was glammy that summer of '72 with the silver pants and the silver.
Speaking of glam, what about Mott the Hoople? That you did that album cover.
Ian's still a friend of mine, He's amazing. He's in his late 70s and he still goes out there. Because he was a bit older than everybody else. He wasn't... he'd had a real job and he had a kid and he lived in the real world. Whereas none of the rest of us had.
What kind of a song? You mentioned you just shot recently for Gucci. Who else are you working for these days? Who are some of the clients you're working with?
They tend to be individuals. There's a magazine called As If, big high-end one, owned by friends of mine. And, we're talking of shooting Benicio. I met him one night with them. And I thought, wow.
So
Benicio del Toro, It tends to, things just pop up, I can't really explain it.
You're fortunate in the sense that, considering how many years you've been shooting, okay,
I can still stand.
You could still stand. Yes, okay.
What are you shooting now? I'm sorry. Did you say that already?
Canon
series.
5D Mark III you mentioned earlier.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, still, okay.
Great camera.
Unlike, I'd say, 99% of the photographers that I know and I'm aware of, it seems like you've never had to take on an assignment that you really didn't want to do? It seems like
you'd be surprised.
Oh, okay. Fill us in. I mean, so there were times when to pay the bills, you would still shoot whatever came your way.
Especially if you walked in. I'm talking really in the years when I could barely get dogs to piss on me. Mm-hmm. There was a time. And I remember this one lady who had plenty of money. She wanted to be a disco singer. I knew her somehow through my lawyer. And she came with cash. I did really good pictures of her. She wanted to look like a star. So I made her look like a star and I took the money. And that wasn't the only time, believe you me. You know.
But you enjoyed yourself doing that too. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the thing is, you never had to take a job that you said, I'm just going to shoot this and just hold my nose until it's gone.
I never thought of it. If you're in front of my camera, I'm going to love you, baby.
Okay. That's the attitude to have, I guess. That's what's called survival.
Yeah, you can't really take pictures of people if you feel an antagonism towards them. I've always loved my subjects.
What are some of your warm-up techniques that you use for people? Does that really depend on who you're photographing?
No, I do power breathing. I would have already done a yoga workout and a meditation, and mostly nowadays I'll get a massage beforehand too.
Nice.
So when I show up, I'm primed.
Just like you before the show, Alan. So, but I think maybe following up on his question, what about what direction do you give to some of the people that are sitting for you?
That's actually what I was getting at, not necessarily your warm-up, but like to sit down, you just don't start taking pictures. I mean, what kind of games do you play or interchanges do you have?
I don't really play games. I think it's about stirring the energy. You just start the process and it just evolves. I'm not uptight about these things. For me, I go into a session, I'm going to have some fucking fun.
What if the other person isn't having fun and they're just giving you nothing?
No, they always have fun.
Like a magic man.
They don't have any option. No, I never found that kind of resistance.
And I mean, just kind of given what you're saying here, which is incredible in many ways. I mean, what do you think back on, or what do you attribute the success to? What do you attribute the fact that you can kind of say, hey, I'm not worried about it. It's going to work out. I show up. Things are good. I'm not going to chase this down too much. They'll come to me. What do you attribute it to? I mean, because, 99% of the people are going to say, that's not the way it works. I mean,
I don't know how it works with other people. I haven't got a clue. I don't know. I don't know how to attribute any of it.
But you must have thought about it at times and said,
but you've seen shots. You can see how crazy it evolved. It wasn't like, yes, I may say, keep your eyes on the prize. But
do you believe in luck?
It's not about luck. It's about, tapping into the moment. And if you're open to the moment in the right way, good things will happen.
It's a very Buddhist outlook.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because of all the yoga I've done.
Mm-hmm. Maybe so.
I would say that I would imagine it's safe to assume that you sit back every once in a while and reflect on the fact that what you have been doing for the past few decades is a very unique thing that very few people have an opportunity to do, not just photographing celebrities and rock people, but finding a little niche that's very unique that only happens at one time. In other words, you could not be doing what you're doing if you started today because the world is different, the business is different, everything else. You were in the right place at the right time with the right chemistry.
It wasn't that I knew that I was. It just turned out that way. Yeah.
And here you are all this time later, and you have a body of work and a bunch of stories that very few people can match.
As it turns out. Yeah, I mean, none of it was by design. But you've seen shot, you can see, I mean, I have probably shot more still lives of cocaine than any other photographer.
When's that book coming out?
Rails.
Yeah, you can't snort it off a page. Well, you can snort it off of anything.
Would you still shoot? Do you still like to shoot a concert? Do you still get
Not
to
really.
concerts? Any interest? No.
What's the point?
Yeah. I don't know,
No,
maybe
it's like,
backstage
what's the
or something.
point? I mean, when you're going to compete with like 1,000 other photographers. No point.
Also, they're so orchestrated now. Now it's actually a show that's repeatable, whereas when you were shooting back then, they were shows, but my guess is it was a lot looser and...
Yeah, and you could shoot the whole concert. Once they started in the 80s to start to restrict that, I wasn't interested. I mean, if you would pay me to do it and give me total access, that would be fine. But...
yeah, now they have 10 minutes, the first 2 songs, and everybody's out.
That.
It's crazy, yeah.
You see, what they don't get is that if you're shooting a whole concert, you get to study the subject and see angles that work. See, you can keep probing.
Mm-hmm. You can
I
build.
haven't done that in years.
What would during a concert back, let's say in whatever in the day, how much would you shoot? Would you shoot 3 rolls, 10 rolls, or?
You'd be amazed how much I could shoot.
Yeah, bunch. Yeah, right.
It would vary.
Yeah,
probably depending on how much.
But you're a heavy shooter.
Subject turned me on.
Yeah, but heavy shooter. Cool. I asked you about that photo of Madonna where she's going like this to her shoulder.
Yeah, I've got to find. There are more of them.
Uh-huh.
That are probably worth a bundle. And they were taken while she was still a dancer, 1980.
Do you remember the setting, the context?
Yeah, it was my studio.
Oh, okay.
Bleecker Bob used to bring people that would go
from
to
the record store.
store.
Bleecker Bob. That guy? Okay.
I think he died, didn't he?
I don't know.
Wow.
So.
She had a totally different look in that picture.
But she was totally ungroomed. I think that's what people like about it. Yeah. But I got to find the other few frames. Because, I know how well that shot does.
Mm-hmm. So when you say you got to find them, are they here somewhere? Are they in a?
I think it's in one of my storage spaces.
One of your storage spaces, okay.
Yeah, so it's some work to find them.
You got to get someone on that, no?
I've got to get all kinds of stuff.
Okay, I hear you. And that Motley Crue in the bathtub, that's probably a pretty legendary. Was that? As it turns out. A hotel room? Or how was that all set up?
It was in a big studio.
Oh, it was a studio? Okay.
In LA. I also shot these pictures of them surrounded by all this glass and with these burning candles. But it turns out the dirt, that's when that really surfaced, when they did the book, The Dirt. And there they are.
In the tub.
In the tub where they belong. I photographed them before they officially broke up too. And Nicky Six and I communicated.
That's cool.
He's like the brains behind Motley, the colonel.
Any photographers that other than Bob Gruen, who's a mate. As a mate. Anybody else that whose work you like, whose work maybe when you're starting and looking at stuff?
They tend to be dead photographers.
Yeah.
I always liked Man Ray.
Yeah.
Because he was an artist. He could shoot straight photography and did to make a living, but he played around all the time.
Totally, yeah.
So Man Ray, in retrospect, I was turned, because he has a museum in Berlin, and I got to visit it a few years ago, and I realized how good Helmut Newton was.
Oh, God, yeah.
But it wasn't just about all those rich tarts pouncing around in penthouses, because it's so fucking what, But when I saw his other work, that was when I was really turned on.
His eye was exquisite. He had a way of composing a frame that I even if the picture you didn't like, it was composed beautifully, I found.
Yeah, he had a great intuitive sense.
Yes.
A guy called George Horrell.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, sure.
So I liked all the old Hollywood.
The glamour stuff of the 40s, 30s.
I once spent a few days on a 90-foot catch in the Caribbean on a boat, and all of the artwork on the walls were Horrell portraits originals.
Yeah, I knew the guy that, which would have been in the early 80s, that started to promote his work. Mm-hmm. And I met George.
Absolute stunning tonality and lighting. He was a master. Everybody imitates him now. He's like, when you think of Hollywood lighting, that was him.
There were a few other photographers from that period of time who, but George somehow got everyone's imagination later in life. He had a very fallow period too. And, but I remember he reading something, Horst was another guy.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love.
Yes. Yeah.
But I remember reading somewhere in an interview, Horrell saying things kind of got going with him when he realized it was cool to act like a complete idiot behind the camera, because that allowed the people in front of the camera, it loosened them up, you know?
Yeah.
I thought, sounds a bit like me.
So maybe I can ask then now, as getting near the end of this, we lost Lou 3-4 years ago now. David,
5 or 6 years ago.
5 years ago now?
Sid's gone, Freddie's gone.
I mean,
David
gone, recently,
Lou,
I think, hit people pretty hard. I mean,
Phil Lynott.
Yeah.
These are all friends of mine.
And especially
Rory Gallagher.
Yeah.
I didn't see him later on in his life.
Yeah. And he was a favorite of mine when I first started listening to some of these blues, and then.
Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah, he was a great guitar player. Yeah. I guess my question is, especially with David passing, are you taking a new look at the work? I mean, are you doing it with a little bit of sense of, I don't know how to say, mortality? Any kind of thoughts on the subject?
I don't think so like that. I think I always approach them as human beings with respect. So, no, I mean, everybody dies.
That's the one guarantee we do have.
You also mentioned regarding Harrell that he had a fallow period too. Are you referring to yourself as the other? Who's two?
I've had a fallow period. Believe you me.
Okay.
Like especially leading up to my heart bypass surgery in 1996.
Okay.
But then I was still coking.
And now we're in a different chapter, obviously.
Clean as a whistle for 22 years.
Okay, so
if I want to get loaded, caffeine and marijuana. What they call it, the hippie speedball.
I think that's a good place to end it right there.
And there you have it. Mick, it's been absolutely wonderful talking with you. Do you have any exhibits coming up or anything like that? Any shows, books?
Mexico City, actually a big Queen one, huge Queen one. I go down there on the 11th of March.
Okay.
There's a Bowie exhibition that was originally at the Museum of Pop in Seattle. I know it's going to 2 venues in China this year.
Is this all Mick Rock photos, or is this just a Bowie thing? Okay, because they had the Bowie thing in the Brooklyn Museum.
Yeah, I got a bit of stuff in that. What they were most excited about was the videos.
Yeah.
In fact, I did a lecture one night built around the videos.
The Bowie book was last year, right? Or a year before?
No, I think it's been out for 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years now? Okay.
Still sells.
Yeah. All right.
Beautifully produced book, which is the publishers.
That's great. What about Instagram?
The Real Mick Rock.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I have a friend, Norman Reedus, who's got about 7 million follows.
Another guest on our show.
That's the question I wanted to ask.
That was the connection.
How did that?
I love Norman. We got to know each other and we got on. He's a lovely guy.
Yeah, he was a terrific guest. We had a ton of fun with him. Great guy.
He loves photography.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So
He's a good photographer.
Yes, he is indeed.
All right. Anyway, Mick Rock, thank you again so much for having us here in your home studio today. If you are not a subscriber to the B&H Photography Podcast, what are you waiting for? You can subscribe.
For God's sake.
For gosh sake. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, and Spotify. And you can always find this on the B&H Explorer website and the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group page. And just tell them that Al sent you. And for now, on behalf of Jason, John, and myself, thank you so much for tuning in today.
One plug.
Yes, please.
Shot, the documentary. You can not only see it on Netflix, you can see it on iTunes. There's several of those digital outlets, but that's still running a couple of years later, so must have 2 or 3 viewers a month,
There you have it. Okay. Nick, thank you so much again.
My pleasure.
Take care.
Thank you.
I'm going to sit on the couch.
Okay, good.